Welcome everybody. I'm glad to be here. I like to talk to students. I'm still a student. I had a couple of years lectures at the University about management, controlling, marketing, acquisitions, HR and all that in the natural science faculty. Because during these days we found out that somebody who is studying, for instance, chemistry, is making his PhD, entering the business. He has no idea about business. And many people fail because they have no idea, they are not prepared. So what I did is first I gave lectures on these issues, according to my experience as CEO. I founded a faculty for business economics in chemistry, and this is very successful. A lot of bachelors, MBAs, PhDs finished the studies at Münster University. In the meantime, there are several locations in Germany about that. And as the third thing, to promote business management in the sense what I like to do is I sponsored a prize for business chemistry 7 years ago to show how chemistry is creating innovations which are absolutely important and necessary for mankind. So this is my issue. What for I'm here on this earth to promote innovations which we really need. And this month, the 7th award will be given to Clariant. They have developed a process which is pretty close to this year's Nobel Prize. The Nobel Prize in chemistry is given for biocatalyst processes fueled by enzymes, made from bacteria or mushrooms or yeast. And what they did is they used straw as a byproduct from the harvest, which is normally burnt, and processed with a certain enzyme produced by a mushroom to produce out of this cellulose in the straw bioalcohol for gasoline. You know the E10 at the gasoline stations. In a couple of years we will have E20. And this is absolutely working nice, and the next plant is built in Czechia with 50,000 tons. Last year, there was a gentleman awarded at Boehringer Ingelheim. He developed with his team a pharmaceutical, a very complicated pharmaceutical, to reduce sugar in the blood for treating diabetes type 2. And this product has the advantage that it doesn't hurt the heart system. Normally, diabetes patients are killed by heart problems. This product doesn't do that. And this is based on the apple tree root skin extract. Can you follow? The apple tree has roots. The roots have a skin, and they extract the skin. And there's a very complicated compound found which reduces the glucose, the sugar, out of the blood by 40%. This is a worldwide number one product just now. And every year I look for the nominations, walk to the young people, have a full day and understand what innovation is that, and how did innovation come to you, and what is the secret? How did you find that out? And normally it follows intuition. I will talk about intuition during this lecture. So it's fun for me to talk to you. This lecture will be on my YouTube channel. I guess you have all read my books already to prepare yourself for this lecture. You have a lot of questions. If not, you can read my books. If not, you can look to my YouTubes. I guess in the meantime, 100 or so, about leadership and all things of stuff, innovation, intuition, and so on. So about this book, this is the first lecture in English. And this is a student textbook. It's for you. The publisher said it's working well around the world. It's structured as a student textbook. Recently, at a convention, a speaker was limited to 45 minutes, and he was talking 45 minutes, 1 hour, 1:15, and the audience was leaving the room. And at the end, after 1.5 hours, there was only one gentleman left in the first row. And he finished after 1 hour and 45 minutes, approaching this gentleman in the first row and said, "Thank you very much. You are the only one who is understanding me." And this guy said, "No, what you told us is all bullshit, but I'm the next speaker." So this will not happen today. I'll try to stick in my time frame, of course. Linda, you mentioned already what you did here with your lectures on sustainability, triple bottom line, stakeholder theory, ethics, business ethics, corporate responsibility, and all that. That makes me unbelievably happy.
Corporate governance as well, I think.
Corporate governance. I like that because a couple of years ago there was no lecture in the universities on this issue of business ethics. And of course I checked what's going here at the FOM University, and I found what your rector said, Professor Dr. Burkhard Herrmeier, in 2010. He said the academic training of managers must be future-proof in order to offer the economy and society the added value they rightly expect. This is why we are giving business ethics and sustainability an appropriate place at FOM in a rectorate project launched in 2010. The aim is to anchor the topics in the minds of students and teachers as well as in practical dialogue. And you are part of that, obviously. That's great. And I like it very much that this focus is here at the university, and you are lucky enough to listen and to prepare yourself for a business life full of business ethics. The title on which we decided is Business Ethics 3.0, the new concept for a better work-life balance. So I combine work-life balance and business ethics 3.0. My dear friends, work-life balance is your most important issue of your life, your private life and your business life. Work-life balance. I don't like this so much, the wording. I like more life balance. What is work-life balance? It's a balance in work? Or is it a balance in life? Or is it a balance between work and life? But if you have this dualism of work and life, the message is not quite positive, because you don't like the work and you like your life. And if you listen to the radio on Fridays, they say, "Oh, it's great, it's weekend coming." So it's free time for your life. The separation of life and business is not good. You're suffering because if you're not able to combine that. The new expression is work-life blending, flowing over from the US. I don't like that either, because if you blend all that together, no free time, life, business, and all that, you have not the focus on a relaxing and focusing life, which moves into a more inner growth of your life, not focusing only on the outer world. So I like to talk about life balance. And if you follow the practices of life balance, which I will explain, this will lead you automatically to a business ethics which is more holistic, which is more whole, and not just focusing on the ethics point of view. I'm not an ethics professor, and I'm a businessman. And I know, of course, in the business, we have really a lack of ethics and morality. Are you sure? You know that? If you watch television, it's not only Volkswagen. It's a lot of companies who are not following a real good ethics and morality. So that's the reason for the title. So a life balance will lead you to business ethics in a holistic way. or the business ethics in a holistic way will lead you to a good life balance. So this is a reason for this concept. Do you have any idea what you want to hear from me? We are still free to structure the lecture. I don't want to present all that what I have in mind, but do you have any questions which I should cover? Do you have an idea how we should structure this lecture and discussion? Any idea what you'd like to know? What's about your life balance? Is your life balance okay or not? It's a big thing. And most people don't know what life balance is. They just work. And sometimes they have focus on life and relax and get more power to work again. So, this is not a lecture where I try to transfer knowledge. This is a lecture where I try to transfer experience. If knowledge is transferred to you, you learn that, you run the tests, you get your degree. What I tell you is experience. Why is it so important to talk about experience? Because experience is much larger than what we know, what you know. What you know is limited to your individual consciousness. Experience is wide open to global consciousness, or to consciousness of everybody, or to consciousness what happened in the world, what's happening today, and what will happen tomorrow. Do you believe me? Maybe at the end. I hope you believe me. So I try to wake you up to broaden your individual limited consciousness to more of that. And this is not easy to explain with words. I'm doing Zen meditation for now more than 30 years. And when a scholar asks the Zen master, in the process of meditation, Master, please tell me, what is the secret? How can I grow? And how can I achieve enlightenment at the end? And the master said, if you want to know how tea tastes, you've got to drink it. So you cannot learn it. You must drink it. You must do it. And then you know how tea tastes. Okay. When I wrote this book, the title is created by my son, Patrick. He is now 30 years. Yesterday he had his birthday. No, on the 2nd. I said, please give me a title which is modern, appealing to young people, digital, global, and he said, Business Ethics 3.0 or 4.0. But you better find out what 1.0 is and 2.0 is. And I checked that. Business Ethics 1.0 was developed almost 30 years ago from companies who try to find out how they react if they have an environmental problem, for instance, or corruption or anything like that. How they would react. It was a passive concept. It doesn't work. Business Ethics 2.0 was developed a couple of years ago where companies said, oh, we must do more. We must create ethics guidelines. We must train our managers. We must tell as a board, you've got to be ethically and morally on the right track. And please do that. This is Business Ethics 2.0. Do you think this works? I don't think it doesn't work. So we have to find new concept which is working in the business and makes people clear what the handicaps are, what the blockages are. Why are all the employees not following ethic guidelines? What the hell is going on with these individuals? So I wrote this book. Having been, as you said, a CEO, I'm really suffering if I watch television, for instance, and see what's happening in the marketplace. It's increasing. Immorality is increasing. Balance sheets are falsified. Bribery, corruption, price cartels. Interesting enough, if you Google price cartels in the EU, you find 20 big things of well-known companies in well-known industries obviously this is quite normal, but it's not. Your customer are suffering if the prices are not following the marketplace. So this was the reason for this book. And when I had this book done, of course, I got the little book of the Dalai Lama in my hands, which the title is Ethics is More Important Than Religion. I said, great, this guy is my promoter. So I asked the Dalai Lama to write the foreword for my book. It could be a good marketing thing, right? If the Dalai Lama writes it, my book, you all got to read this book. He didn't do that. But I had very good connections to the Dalai Lama through friends. He didn't do that. Second try to promote the book was to ask the Prime Minister of Bhutan, the little kingdom near Himalaya, where I have a very close connection and where the happiness is developed in the Gross National Happiness Program of Bhutan. I know the gentleman very well. He promised me, yes, I'll write the book. So there is a whole chapter in here about the Gross National Happiness Program of Bhutan. At the end, he didn't do it. The third try was, my new teacher is Thomas Campbell, nuclear scientist, physicist, and consciousness researcher. So he's on the forefront of consciousness research, Thomas Campbell. You should keep that in mind. And I asked him during the last seminar in France, said, Tom, could you do me a favor and write a little forward to me? He said, oh no, come on, I don't do that, I never do that. And I gave up. But then, during the seminar, we learned how to imagine consciousness decisions influencing people. So I was using his own methods to influence his consciousness that he's writing this forward. It did work, not at the seminar, but 3 days after I returned, I got a blurb, what he said. I didn't know what a blurb is. A blurb is so Sprechblase, yeah? Blurb. So he wrote a great blurb. I would like to read it for you. Business Ethics 3.0 by Meyer-Galow provides a much-needed beacon of light to a segment of our society that seemed to be sinking deeper and deeper into darkness. The term business ethics, once an important topic within the business community, has slowly descended through the fog of profitable ends justifying unprincipled means to become nothing more than a self-contradictory oxymoron. I didn't know what an oxymoron is. I checked it. An oxymoron is a word which is in itself contradictory. For him, business ethics is a word which is in itself contradictory because business and ethics doesn't fit together. He is a research guy. Is not a business guy. I'm of the opposite opinion. It works together. It works very well together, and you can be very successful. I didn't talk about it. I did it when I was CEO. In Business Ethics 3.0, Erhard Meyer-Galow has taken a fresh approach that appeals to individual personal growth, and that's important, rather than the usual proffering of academic arguments that are not implementable in the real world of relentlessness, Machiavellian competition. Only through raising and improving individual awareness and responsibility can real long-term change have a chance of developing. Business Ethics 3.0 is on the right track with a positive and compelling message. May it succeed where the academics have failed. I'm not of the opinion that the academics have failed. As I said, I'm very happy that the academics is covering the issue of business ethics in books, in articles, in lectures, and so on. It's so important because you all got to know what it is. But we have to ask ourselves, how efficient is that? If you tell somebody what business ethics is, will he follow ethics and morality in the business or not? I can tell you my experience is normally not. If an individual is coming under pressure, or greed is the engine for business, he will forget all what we have learned. So we have to ask ourselves, why is it so? And it's so important because I recently have read in newspapers, mostly day by day, that all the surveys are showing that in the group of students, psychic diseases are increasing, burnout, anxiety, depression, stress, and all that. Double-digit growth. Obviously, we are in a dead-end street with what we tell and what we want to do. What the hell is going on? Well, maybe we may say we are in a VUCA world. Maybe you have heard that. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Of course, that is increasing. This VUCA world is increasing. And if you are blamed, you may say, oh, it's the VUCA world. But give it up to say it's always the others. Give it up to give it's always the outer world. It's always we. It's the individual. And we have to take care that we survive in the VUCA world, independent of what's happening in the future. And I can tell you, the future is unknown. We do a lot of things, what we learned, budgeting, 5 years planning and all that. You get from controlling prices for crude oil, for gasoline, for raw materials, for HR, and so on. If we know how the future is, I would buy shares. I would be millionaire or billionaire. We don't know the future. So we are afraid about the future if something is happening. So we have to develop a concept which we can follow, independent how the future will be. We have to develop a business ethics concept which is working independent how we are and what the situation is. And whether we are forced, like the engineers in Volkswagen, to change the software and the clients are suffering at the end. That's a reality. And to show you that it's not really a consciousness in business for this kind of life balance, I may read an interview of my first teacher many years ago, where I was a businessman. I had a crisis in business and private life. I was going to Karl Graf Dürkheim Center in Todtmoos-Rutte. I said, oh yeah, okay, you're a top manager. Yeah, a couple of days ago, another top manager was here. I tell you what I was talking with him about. The Dürkheim said, may I ask you, what is your life's guiding principle? He asked this manager, and the manager said, it's all about performance. And the manager told, well, I'm a successful manager with a great reputation. Tell me, I'm missing something. I'm very healthy. I have no financial problems. I have nothing to apologize for. I have a so-called clean record. And I'm well respected by my employees and numerous others. Many could envy me. Yet nevertheless, something is wrong in my life. In spite of all my privileges, I have an incomprehensible fear inside. In spite of my own wholesomeness, I have feelings of sin and guilt, and in spite of all my wealth, I have the feeling of darkness and emptiness. Oh, all about its performance, Dürkheim said, you are a poor man. I'm not surprised that you are unhappy. Do you really believe that performance is the most important thing in life? That life has to be focused only on performance? Do you really believe that? And the manager said, what else is important? Dürkheim said, have you ever heard about the inner path, which the human being has to fulfill in addition to the outer path, the work in the world? Have you considered that inner growth may be a condition for inner peace? With a disrespectful gesture, the manager said, do you mean something like religion or such? My dear professor, we as top managers do not have any time for that kind of stuff. We cannot use it to manufacture our products or to achieve leading positions in the business world. These people, Dürkheim said, very often busy, well-educated, consciousness, orderly people, well-meaning people are so greatly limited by their mania to be successful that they believe it can replace all need for inner growth. The result is a high-performance animal, which, because of this one-sidedness, is a mere caricature of what a human being is meant to be, a unity of body, mind, and spirit. If you would paint such a human being, he would have a giant head, blown-up breast, mechanical limbs of steel which are directed to be a tenacious bull. But in the middle, where the guiding center of soul and spirit resides, would be a vacuum, which is sheltered by an anxious, easily vulnerable ego. The human being who corresponds to this picture remains inside a child, in spite of all that he knows, all he can do and all he has achieved, because the soul remains small and is blocked from being able to develop in the person and his attitude. The result is emptiness, guilt, and fear. These symptoms frequently occur in people who seem to be at the top of their career. Others, who aren't aware of this internal dilemma, may admire their visible facade. But behind the facade is an unhappy human being whose suffering soul and lack of inner peace is the result of having remained an immature individual. This gives you the answer why top managers are not in line of business ethics as a whole. Many of them are children in business suits. You cannot see it. They have a mask, a very friendly mask. But you see what they do and what they decide. My teacher, Hans-Peter Dürr, who is quantum physicist, one of my other teachers said, "Oh, these great guys reminds me to a situation. It has snowed. We are in the village. We look up to the snow, and there's one guy skiing across the snow, and he starts an avalanche. And the avalanche, a huge avalanche, is coming down to the village, and the people say, 'Oh, look, the guy, great guy. What magnitude of things he can create,' not knowing that's going to kill them." This is a nice story for all CEOs. They don't like it when I tell them this story, but it's true. Why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult if you hear about business ethics that the individual is not really doing it? I'm influenced and fueled in by spiritual wisdom. I meditate. I'm influenced by death psychology or analytical psychology by Carl Gustav Jung, the very famous psychologist. I'm influenced by quantum physics through my teacher Hans-Peter Dürr. He has written great books, Hans-Peter Dürr, scholar of Heisenberg. And now I have new teachers, they're on the forefront. They say there's no reality, it's all virtual. You would like it like in a video game. This is not reality. This is virtual reality. This is processed data streams. Data and data streams are the reality. And if you process the data streams, you get a table or a feeling or a thought. This is very new. So as I said, I'm still a student. And why is it so difficult if we teach other people that they do what I want you to do because you are all different? Carl Gustav Jung said, we have introvert and extrovert types. Maybe it's half and half with you, introvert and extrovert. And then we have another undergroup below that, the thinking type, the feeling type, the emotional type, and the intuition type. So we have 8 different types of people. So if you talk to others, you have to keep in mind that you have 8 different groups of people. Can you imagine that everybody would react different when I tell you do business ethics 3.0? 8 different types of people? Most probably they do not. The extrovert type reacts very different to the introvert type. And just recently I have read a book written by Professor Marz in Leipzig, a psychologist. It's called Das falsche Leben, The Wrong Life. And he's based on deaf psychology as well. And I said, my goodness, it's exactly what my experience is. He is developing different types of symptoms in psychological diseases and is relating the diseases to the situation when you were born, for instance. Can you imagine a child is born and the parents, they don't want it. They didn't decide, they don't want it. What is developed then is what he called the threatened ego. A threatened ego, when you are adult, is behaving in a very special way because he has learned I'm threatened. I have to defend myself. I have to fight all the time to be accepted. Second, the unbeloved ego. The parents wanted the child, but they don't take care. There's no love transferred. The unbeloved, happening very often. Or the mother, more than the father, is transferring his ideas how the child should develop to the child and makes the child dependent on mother's advice. I recently heard from a psychologist the story that one of his patients is a pilot with Lufthansa. He has really anxiety problems. He's afraid of everything. After 50 hours of talking, they found out that the mother-son relation is still very heavily influenced by problems from the childhood. Or the restrained ego. Parents say, we want only the best for you. The result is a very much restrained ego. To the father relation, there's no father. He left, or he's in business. This will be for the children developing a neglected ego. Or pressure to perform, like this manager. You put all the pressure to perform to your children. What's going to be resulted in that? The overstrained ego. And so on. Who has a happy childhood? When I talk to people, I don't find so many young people who said, I had a very happy childhood. Even my children said, well, we don't like this and this and this and this. When we come to business ethics, can you imagine if these different damages in the childhood, how this would influence the behavior to follow business ethic guidelines? The unbeloved or the neglected would, of course, easily follow the advice of his boss to be immoral, easily, and so on. So why do I explain that so much in detail? Now we are in a situation where how could we develop business ethics which is not dependent on all that stuff? We must develop a concept which is independent from the future, which is independent for your psychic defects, be it these defects which I mentioned, or be it from the type you are, independent from that. And there's only one concept and one track, and this is mindfulness and growing insight. A concept which is independent, you develop yourself, but you've got to understand why it's not easy to do that. Let's assume the child is 3 years old. Until the date of 3 years, a baby is whole. Look into the face when a baby smiles. It's whole. Everything is whole. Male, female, bad, good, dark, light, bright, everything is good. with 3 years, we have got to be on the track to develop our ego. And we are promoted to develop our ego. And we know we need our ego urgently. I'm not one of these guys of esoteric systems who say you have to get rid of your ego. This is completely misleading. We have so many people in our society who have a too small ego because of these defects. Ego is great. Ego is wonderful. You must develop your ego. What is bad is egocentric and egoism. But we have plenty of good things in our ego. So we develop our ego in the kindergarten, in the school, in the high school, in the university, and the business. And we are awarded for that. We are promoted for that. And if we are doing, and we are conditioned for that, and that's what you are on this track. But you have made a deal which you don't know yet. Developing your ego is looking for knowing a lot, doing a lot, achieving a lot, being successful, having a lot, typical ego things. It's okay. But you know, and we know that in the meantime very clearly from psychology, if you aim very much for knowing a lot, you have made the deal that you are afraid that sometimes you don't know it. You don't know something what you're asked. Handicap. If we are aiming a lot, want to have a lot, want to keep a lot, you have on your backside the anxiety to lose it. It's working. It's your shadow, like Jung said. So the more we build up our capabilities, the more we grow in our shadow with these bad attitudes. And when you're under pressure in business, this dark side is taking over. And this dark side in us, and we are both, we are good and bad in itself. The dark side, when you're coming under pressure, your dark side is taking over. And this dark side, your dark brother and sister, is playing in the Champions League. We are in the, Amateur Liga. And then your dark side said, wow, the profits are going down. Falsify your balance sheets. Huh? All these guys at IKB, Düsseldorf, their business was to finance middle-sized companies. All of a sudden, they created asset-backed securities in California to improve the profits. Nobody was knowing about that. These papers were sold to anybody else, and they lost a lot of money. And this was the reason of one of the crises in 2008. So they left the business purpose because of greed and because of anxiety not to be successful. And maybe they were afraid that the contracts were not continued. So this is, of course, the reason why all of a sudden people and managers don't do what they should do in business ethics. And there was 100 years ago, an American economist, psychologist, John Morris Clark, who published a paper which said, being responsible equals being profitable. The more you're being responsible, the more you are profitable. And 100 years later, we ask ourselves, is it working or is it not working? And why is it not working? Sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not working. Responsibility in the business. May I ask you to do a little practice with me? Lift up your right hand, for instance, like that. Your right hand. Look into your right hand. And do nothing else than looking into your right hand. You are very good. This is a mindfulness training. You can't give up now. Good. I was not so good in my beginning. After 5 seconds, I was looking out of the window to my teacher. This is a mindfulness test, how mindful you are if you decide to be mindful and focus your inner side of the hand. And if you focus the outer side of your hand as well, this is your outer life. This is your inner life, and this is your outer life. I ask you to focus on your inner life, which most of you normally don't do it in your age, normally not. But it's increasing. Your inner life. I'm not talking theories. There's a trend in the United States called Wisdom 2.0. You may Google that, Wisdom 2.0. Søren Gadamer, the author of the book with this title, wrote this book, and then he started little meetings and conventions, but it didn't work out. And then all of a sudden Google said, that's us. Mindfulness and compassion. This was the topic. And they started to run conventions 6, 7, 8 years ago. Now in the US, in all big cities, 1,000 listeners. There was one 3 years ago in Dublin in the Google headquarters. I was the oldest participant, asked young people, why you are here, what are you doing here?
Is this a search inside yourself initiative that they're doing, or is it something different? The Google.
The Google guys have read the book of Gadamer. They have had meetings with him. They found out that not many people are listening to him. Then they said many people listening to Google. And mindfulness and compassion fits very well what we have in mind for our employees.
Because they wrote a book called Search Inside Yourself.
Yeah, that came after.
Came afterwards, okay.
Thich Nhat Hanh was consultant to Google, for instance. Not very well known. So it's a big success. It means that mindfulness and compassion is driving the company. Mindfulness and compassion. And they like it at the universities, of course. The top 5, the top 10. Google can get the best students from these universities because they know if we move to Google, mindfulness and compassion, work-life balance, they take it serious. We can do it. You can do meditation, we can work at home, we can work on interesting projects and so on. If I look to Google, of course, I must confess that Google in the marketplace is not very compassionate, of course, yet. I asked the teachers and some Zen monks who were with Google, why are you doing that with the young people? They said, we do it with the young people. Sometimes they are managers, general managers, the company is going to change. And if you look to the subjects of research of Google, besides the engine, the search engine, you see they cover all big issues of mankind. They like it, people like it. And it works because a couple of months ago, 3,000 Google employees wrote a letter to the management. We don't want to work on military projects, period. This is the result. So it's starting. Not well known here in Germany. You know what they do here in Germany? They said, oh yeah, mindfulness, it's important. We heard that. You have thousands of mindfulness coaches, big business. They hire the coaches, they train mindfulness, more than looking into the hand. Mindfulness. After a while, they leave the company. If you ask them why you train all these people in mindfulness, you ask the management said, well, we would like to have a better performance, better results. But that's not the idea of mindfulness. It's the same with meditation. Mindfulness is the entrance. And this is very important for you to know. Mindfulness is the entrance for personal inner growth. All meditation pathways are starting with mindfulness. All religions are starting with mindfulness. Prayers is mindfulness training. Contemplation and all that. It's all mindfulness. Mindfulness is the first step you've got to practice. All other issues are following. Compassion is following, for instance. It's mindfulness. What's following after you do mindfulness? You've got to practice mindfulness. You get real great discipline in practicing and working. Discipline, diligence, and focus is exactly coming after your mindfulness training. That's all what you need for your study, right? And it's later in the business. Discipline, diligence, and focus. Number 3, serenity and compassion. when you meditate or follow any other track for mindfulness training, your serenity is increasing. Because meditation is, for instance, mindfulness at the start. Many people stop there. The company is stopping there when they use mindfulness training. The second step after mindfulness is to let it be, to let the focus be, and reduce dualism and get it one. If you focus on your breath, for instance, as a starter in meditation, you are still fixed with your thoughts on your breath. The next step is to let it be. And at the end, you are your breath. And this let it be training is much more important than the mindfulness at the beginning, because mindfulness is decided in your neocortex, in your mind. Your mind doesn't like to let it be. Your mind likes to control everything. You're fighting against your mind if you let it be. But this let it be leads to serenity. And what else could you have if the future is not known, or you are in a company where pressure is high, or the VUCA world, is serenity. I will survive. Success equal enthusiasm and efforts. That's what you gain. You will be very successful if you're enthusiastic, with great efforts to do what you want, and change. Do you know how many people are afraid of any change? Many people are afraid of change. If you're ready to change something, even in the company, you must be really free of anxiety. You must be far away from being afraid that you fail. You never think about failing. You just do it. And my experience is 16% in the company are the changers. 25% have given up. They don't do anything. They camouflage that. And the middle are the administrators. And you know, if you're in your companies, maybe you have some people in mind in these groups. You know what the administrators, the frustrated people try to do? To blow out flame, the lighting flame of the changers, to blow it out, because if they don't do it, the company sees that they are the value creators and not the others. And as being the CEO or manager, you have to take care of all these changers, of the young people, get the best young people, run the mindfulness programs, give them freedom to develop insight, and take care of the young people until they are managers and can lead others in a very sustainable leadership program. Sustainable leadership, sustainable personal leadership for me means to define sustainability in a real proactive way. You don't know that Nachhaltigkeit in German was not a word known in the business here. We called it sustainability until the 90s. And then there was a meeting of East and West German professors in Leipzig, Auerbach's Keller, and they said, well, how the hell should we call sustainability in German? And then the forest professor said, call it Nachhaltigkeit. We do it in the forest. We cut a tree, we plant a tree. That's Nachhaltigkeit, sustainability. And my friend Hans-Peter do that. I don't like that. If we as humans are influencing our environment, we have to take care that the environment is better after we do that, not just keep how it is and was. This is exactly what I understand when I talk about sustainability. And when I transfer this definition of sustainability to leadership, can you imagine? You understand that? And Dürr said, I would call it sustainability for me is, never forget, sustainability is to make living more livelier. Make the living and the other one more lively. Can you imagine? Your employee is coming into your room, you're the boss, he has created a lot of problems, and the only thing you have in mind is to keep his living principle, his life, better. Can you imagine when he moves out of the door, how you will solve the problems? Not because, yes, you've got to do that and this and this and this. With empathy. This is sustainable personal management. Hatten Sie eine Frage? Okay. Change. Intuition, inspiration, innovation. Everybody's mixing all these words. Intuition is a major source of new ideas. Intuition. You don't create a lot of new ideas by thinking. Thinking is restricted to our individual consciousness. Intuere is a present. Intuition comes from intuere, to look inside. With meditation, you look inside. And when you look inside and give up, you stop your neocortex thinking. And then, we know that from brain research, your limbic system and the thalamus system is starting to work. And this is our creational emotional system, where intuitions are coming from. You get intuitions all of a sudden. And if you write it down and make the intuitions your own, you inspire the intuitions. And this is inspiration. And this is the difference between intuition and inspiration. And then you have an idea, and then you bring it to the market, and then you have an innovation. So this is the sequence. You get all this by entering mindfulness, because you want to move into a business ethics 3.0 program developed by me in my book, which said business ethics 3.0 is a business ethics concept which is based on all what we know in the wisdom, spiritual wisdom, psychology, philosophy, quantum physics, new physics, and all that. Combine all that, and all these influences are leading to your internal growth and influencing your attitude. You get resilience as a present if you be on that way, and resilience and health. Resilience is the best you can gain, because if you have the VUCA world, or in the company is something wrong, if you improve your resilience, you'll be really stable in these situations. And you get resilience if you practice mindfulness. So this is the fruit coming up, fruit falling from the tree for you. So if companies don't believe me that they should be on the business ethics 3.0 track or on the mindfulness or meditation track, normally they have hesitating that because they don't understand what I mean. Like the scholar of the master who said, you must drink the tea. It's difficult to transfer that with words. Then companies would follow if you pick the people up where they are. They want to be resilient, they want to be creative, and they want to be very healthy. In the last 5 years, we have so many natural science research results published, how meditation works for your immune system, your heart system, against depression, against burnout, against anxiety, and all that. That's what people like. And if they do all that, at the end, they follow business ethics 3.0. They act ethically and morally on the right way because they followed the whole sequence of inner growth with all these results, and they are not told to be on the business ethics track because they feel it, they change. And that is a concept which is described in here. And that's what I'd like you to achieve. As you are mostly Germans, right? I want to explain to you the great misunderstanding of Körper, Seele, Geist. Body, soul, and ghost, what is called. We in German have only the word Geist. In English you have mind and spirit, fortunately. When we talk in German about Körper, Seele, Geist, and I ask people, what do you think, wo ist dein Geist? Dann machen die alle so. They show here. This is a tragic misunderstanding in our society. It's not the thinking which should be part of the wholeness. It's spirit. And spirit is our divine source where we can log on. This is, Descartes said, cogito ergo sum. And from this time on, we define our life by thinking. Very poor people. Thinking is restricting my consciousness like a little fish in a little aquarium. And we don't know that the aquarium is in the ocean. And we can enlarge the aquarium to be in the ocean by mindfulness training. Quantum physics is improving that. Understanding, a couple of years ago, we didn't really know how this all is working. We said, oh, we assume you're broadening your consciousness. If I was listening to Hans-Peter Dürr, the quantum physicist, he said, well, I never have done any meditation, but I'm a quantum physicist. I've experienced and know that the background is what we call a cooperative background field, and this is a real reality. Out of this field, which is empty, is coming all what is reality in parts of seconds. And this is, he's called, maybe in English it's called ever-acting process. We are in an ever-acting process. And this process is the basis. And the next gentleman, Campbell or Nelson, said, well, it's digital. It's digital and processed data streams, but you can influence with your consciousness. If you're on a track to enlarge your consciousness, you can improve how reality is built. At the end, you can influence the consciousness, of course, of another person. This is the secret of healing. How can a healer heal? It's his consciousness linked into the consciousness of the ill, of the patient. He is influencing the consciousness of the patient that he himself can cure him. It's not the doctor. And so on. You can read all that. So this leads to a life balance, and it's very, very simple. Just select any mindfulness training, look for a teacher. My experience is it doesn't happening without a teacher. And normally it doesn't happening alone. You must be part of a group practicing mindfulness. Two recommendations. One is Benediktushof in Holzkirchen. There's where my teacher is. They have a real huge program near Würzburg, Benediktushof, Holzkirchen. Big program for meditation, yoga, Bogenschießen, Ikebana, Schwertkampf und was weiß ich nicht alles. All the different ways of mindfulness training and train to let it be. The other address is Durkheim Center, Totmos Rütte in the Black Forest. Very honest centers to train what I tell you. I cannot influence you, but I can only tell you, use your insight to start it and be prepared for a future in your business life. And digest what you learn here and get it into practice by understanding what I said, by practicing mindfulness. And mindfulness will carry you with your knowledge to be successful in the world. I come to the end, of course, it's now. We are still in time. Don't wait until you die. This is strong enough? Don't wait until you die. Because we know from near-death experience examples, and we have thousands, but when we die, we enter into a channel, and at the end of the channel is a huge white light. And so we are pretty close to enlightenment. So it's good to know that at the end of our life, most probably we all will be enlightened. And all these near-death experience people who came back are reporting all the same. They didn't want to come back into life. They want to stay in this situation. Watching the doctors and the parents or the kids and so on suffering, or they don't want to come back. It's so great. When I say don't wait until you die, because if you wait until you die with your mindfulness practices, you lose all your years from now until you die. What a shame. And all these years could be full of life, in a wonderful life balance. And at the end, you're ambassadors in your business supported by Linda, with all the knowledge, supported by me, to be on the right track for Business Ethics 3.0. And I really would have fun if you could report that to me in a couple of years. So thank you very much.